People don't realize that alcohol is sugar. And I'm going to also throw it out that it's poison.
0 proven health benefits. I will yell it from the mountaintops. It is just damaging your DNA. It is making your cells weaker. It is gunking up your detox organs. It is not good for your liver. It is not good for your brain. It has a lot of sugar. It's destroying your gut microbiome. It's killing off a lot of your good bacteria and creating leaky gut problems, which then creates brain problems because our gut and our brain are so intricately connected.
Hi, I'm Sarah Schmidt. I'm 52 years old, and I can honestly say that I have never felt better. For the first 50 years of my life, I navigated some pretty fucking hard things that I like to call my Holy Schmidt moments. They include things like being diagnosed with cancer, navigating my sexuality, adopting children, two divorces, losing my dad, and having a biological child in my 40s. After decades of some really, really hard work, I have fallen deeply in love with myself and my life. Turns out that embracing the magic and the expansion that comes with getting older, it isn't a bad place to start. I'm here to prove that life doesn't have to decline with age. In fact, it gets a whole lot better. On Holy Schmidt, we are going to dive into my curiosities around wellness and longevity and mindset, and we are going to do it with really vulnerable, thoughtful conversations with people that I really love and admire. This season, we are going to celebrate and honor growth and transformation and find profound beauty in connection. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to Holy Schmidt and another episode that focuses on our stress kits. What are the tools we need to handle the things that happen in our lives that inevitably are going to happen? How do we be our best selves through all the things that could potentially throw us off track? Today, we're going to talk about how we nourish our bodies. Yeah, what we eat. This is a topic I love to talk about. I've been very focused on food as my medicine for about 15 years. And I'm excited for you to meet our guest, Katie McManigal. Katie and I have been working together for nearly a decade on optimizing not just my health, but the health of my kids as well. Katie has so much amazing knowledge and experience in her own life and in her practice to share. We're not going to talk so much about the macros and the nuts and bolts, but the broad strokes that we need to be thinking about if we want to nourish ourselves to be as optimized as possible. Sometimes what we put in our mouths is the only thing that we can control throughout a day, and it's complicated with hundreds of thousands of choices available to us all the time. How do we develop a plan that can help us be as healthy, robust, regulated as possible? So today, Katie and I are going to have that conversation. I'm really excited for this one. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it gives you some new tools to put in your own stress kit. And I hope we can start a conversation about what you think, what works for you, what have you tried, what do you need to try? Let's talk about it. Enjoy the show. Katie, I am so excited for this episode. This might be one of my favorites of the entire season, like quite honestly.
Aww,
first of all, because I get to talk
too.
with you. And then secondly, I get to talk about something I am I'm passionate about, but I'm also obsessed about.
In a good way.
No, in a good way, and sometimes in a not so good way. But for all of the amazing people that are listening and watching, I want to introduce yourself. I've known you for almost a decade.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, and we've worked together through some challenging times. You've been such an inspiration and a support, not just for me and my whole wellness journey, but for my kiddos and the things that they've struggled with. So this is really fun to get to sit down and actually have a conversation with you.
So I'm Katie McManigal. I am a functional medicine, regenerative medicine nurse practitioner, and I have a clinic in the suburbs of Chicago where we focus on getting to the root cause of healing, making people better rather than just kind of putting the Band-Aid on symptoms and sending people on their way. So reimagining what medicine looks like, what it can look like, what health looks like, and giving people the tools to take that into their own life and make major changes. So I started my career in nursing as a NICU nurse at Lurie Children's Hospital. And it was kind of a combination of things. When I was there, it was very easy to look around and see how sick just everybody was, right? Like we had these babies who were born sick, and in a lot of situations you can't do anything about that, right? You can't help that. But there were just a lot of sick family units, and it made me start asking questions as to what can we do better. And I was in the midst of going through my own health challenges at that time and just kind of uncovering things that I didn't even know that I dealt with. Like I dealt with them since childhood, and so I never realized that being chronically fatigued was not normal. I never realized that being foggy all the time was not normal. I never realized that my body pain was not normal. I remember when my husband and I started dating, telling him one time, you know how sometimes your skin just feels like really bruised if somebody touches you? And he was like, no, I don't.
No, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Yeah,
right. Pretty sure that's not normal. So I was going through my own health changes at the time. I was also in graduate school. And it was just this, like, once you open that can of worms, you can't look back when it comes to allopathic and Western medicine. Once you know certain things, you can't turn your cheek the other way. So it was this snowball of learning how to heal my gut, learning how to detox my body, realizing there's a better way, diving into all of my clinical rotations in the functional medicine space, knowing that that's where I wanted to take my career once I graduated, which wasn't really a space where there were a lot of opportunities for nurse practitioners at the time, but I was just kind of like, we're going this route because the other route is not an option to me anymore. And so then when I graduated school, I got right into functional medicine, and that's where you and I met, was at my first clinic. And then you bounced around with me to some other clinics until we opened Peak Health in 2021.
I remember the first appointment I had with you. It lasted about 90 minutes. I had never, I went through cancer, right? And then I went through fertility treatments and, I had a baby at 44 and all the crazy things. And I had never sat with a physician or a medical practitioner for 90 minutes. I just remember sitting there, the questions you were asking me over the course of that time, I just felt like, God, she really gets me. Like, because you were asking me questions about how I was sleeping, about my digestion, all the things I was eating, how I was moving my body, you wanted to know every single supplement I was taking, and not just like...
Which is a long list.
It's a long list. It was even long then. Not just the generalization, but like what brand are you using, and what's the dose, and what time of day do you take it, and all the things. And I remember walking out of that appointment feeling like I was really, really seen and cared for in a way that I hadn't been before. And that, I found somebody who, my sense of it was that you were taking care of yourself the way I was taking care of myself. And we were aligned in a way that, you were walking the talk. I guess that's what I want to say. And that meant so much. Of course, I've seen that like every time I connect with you, because you're always like, well, I've tried this, or we're trying this, or I tried this out on my husband, or well, I'll just experiment with that on him and see how it works.
Anything I'm not certain, like totally certain on, yeah. He is the guinea pig for.
Right. Well, seriously, he's like, he seems like he's a very robust human.
He is a robust human. Yeah.
But I think the perspective you have is that to take care of a person, you have to look at the whole person.
Mm-hmm. And you have to experience what they're experiencing, right? Like, it's no disrespect to other providers, but when you show up at a doctor's office and you can tell that they do not take care of their health, it's very hard to listen to their advice.
100%. Mm-hmm. Yep. I've had that experience so many times where I look at a person and I'm like, you eat shit. I can tell by looking at you. And now you're telling me something I should do,
And it's everything, right? You can see it in their eyes and their skin and their vibrancy. Like, you can tell if they're kind of exhausted, if they look inflamed. It's a lot of different things.
Oh, 100%. Well, we're here today to talk about how we eat. But not just, kind of in general, because this whole season is about how do we care for ourselves? How do we take care of ourselves so that we are as resilient as we can possibly be in the face of the stress that inevitably is going to come our way. And so I'm excited today to talk to you about how we eat to both manage and prevent stress. I'm not trying to say that what you eat can prevent stress from happening in your life, but what you eat can prevent, or can support your body's reaction to the stress. And how we eat can actually prevent our bodies from experiencing more stress.
Yes. And that is key. I mean, I tell people all the time when I see patients that, the common thing, which I understand, is like, my life is stressful. I can't get rid of my aging parents and my grandchildren who need me and my own health issues and the world's issues. And I can't get rid of those things. And I understand, I sympathize with that. But what you can do is you can make changes to the way your body perceives stress and responds to stress. And that is going to make a world of difference for your health.
I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about the main sort of when you encounter someone who doesn't have it all dialed in and is coming to you for advice, right? And you see a lot of patients who have complex medical issues, Lyme being one of them that affects so many systems, in the body. What do you advise them? How do you talk about eating and food and nutrition with your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am an advocate of meeting people where they're at, because I think when we try to do too much too quickly, it gets very overwhelming for people. So sometimes someone will come to me and they have a lot of things dialed in and they are looking for, how do I take it the next step? And other times people come to me and they are like, I know I'm sick. I know I need to make change, but I have no idea what to do. And in those situations, I think it's really important to start with the basics, because if we don't have a foundation, I can't possibly detox your mold, give you antimicrobials for Lyme, start with, regenerative medicine options for neurodegenerative diseases like ALS or Parkinson's or MS. All of those things require a foundation. And so that foundation is going to be the lifestyle stuff. If you are not sleeping, eating well, hydrating, pooping, getting sunlight exposure, and managing your stress, we will never make it to our destination. So my first thing is kind of assessing those lifestyle pillars to make sure that at the very least patients have an understanding of the importance of those things and how to do them properly. Now, sometimes I will, if somebody is very new and they need extra help, I will refer out to a dietitian, a nutritionist, because in my 1 hour with patients every 6 weeks, they're not going to get the full nutrition education that they need. But I also give them resources and tools and things like that. Eat this, here's a sample menu, here's how to make a smoothie, here's what to put in it, here are the things not to eat. Some people are so stressed by the idea of changing their diet that instead of limiting the bad things, I say, okay, let's start with one change. We are going to change your breakfast every day. Your breakfast is going to have 30 grams of protein and it's going to have 10 grams of fiber. And whatever else you do for the day, I don't care. Just make this a habit and let's kind of start there, and then we can start layering in the steps from there. So it really depends on where somebody is at as to where we can begin.
Yeah. And I do love that approach. I've never felt overwhelmed leaving your office. I feel like you have an incremental way of helping people add things in, a very common sense way about how much people can handle or how much we should all be trying to do. Because we can make ourselves crazy trying to get well.
And then we just add stress.
Right. And I'm a firm believer that my first line of defense when it comes to medicine and taking care of myself is what I put in my mouth. I also think a lot about what I put on my skin. It's the largest organ and it absorbs. So I don't want to be putting all kinds of toxins, on my skin and, adding to, but I can't necessarily control the air quality. Sometimes I can't control my sleep because I have small children, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes my workout gets interrupted, my ability to, get that in every day. Rarely, that's a high priority, but I can control what I eat. And so I think we should talk a little bit more about that, the eating piece.
I think it's freeing that you can control what you eat, right? Like you can control your consumptions. And so it gives you the power. It gives you the power of, I can decide. I can decide what my inputs are going to be and how that's going to affect the rest of my life. I like having control over what I can control. And so that is one of the things. There are so many things in life that we can't control, and I'm at peace with that. But if there are things that we can control that benefit us on a cellular level, why wouldn't we?
For me, protein is really key to this equation when I think about managing stress. And for a while, I wore a CGM just for fun. And for people who don't know what a CGM is, it's a continuous glucose monitor. People who have diabetes will wear them to monitor the glucose levels in their bodies, so they know how much insulin to take. But I did it for fun because I wanted to understand what foods were causing me, blood sugar spikes. Well, it quickly became clear to me that my blood sugar is so incredibly stable throughout the day, except for when I exercise, which I view as a good stress, when I'm stressed, not from exercise, and when I don't get enough sleep, right? So I really had my nutrition dialed in, but I have this clear sense of when my blood sugar is stable, my emotional reactions to things are much more stable. My ability to be more emotionally regulated is connected to my blood glucose levels. And this is something I think people are just beginning to talk about. They refer to it as nutritional psychology. I feel like it's worth emphasizing here. And maybe I want to restate it even. Like your ability to handle stress and react in a regulated way, an emotionally regulated way, has almost everything to do with the way you eat.
100%.
Crazy. Isn't that a crazy thought?
Yes, it's wild.
It is wild. To think when I fly off the handle at my kids, it's probably related to my nutrition.
Because I made a bad choice. I made a bad choice for myself, and now I can't stay regulated for them 100% of the time.
Now there are exceptions to this. Like, every parent is going to lose their shit regardless of what they're eating. But this for me was a big aha moment and gave me a real sense of freedom around, oh my God, this is another thing I actually can control.
Mm-hmm. And it just brings more peace to the home, more peace in your life. When you can control your emotional response to things, everything becomes easier, because that thing that would set you off the handle before, you would stew on that, right? Like when something happens that just really pisses you off, you stew on it, you think about it, it creates stress all day, it has this lasting effect. You might then feel tired afterwards or have a headache. But if you've set yourself up to be able to react in a more calm and collected way, now you cut off that whole cascade of stress for the rest of the day.
It's powerful. Let's talk a little bit about protein, because there's so much out there right now about protein. How much you should eat, what sources you should get it from. Is there a maximum amount you can eat with each meal? Is there like a cutoff at how much your body can absorb? Give me your 101 on protein. I want to hear your latest and greatest on what you're thinking about with regards to protein.
Yeah, I think protein is essential, especially in the world we live in, because protein is going to be one of those things that really helps regulate blood sugar, like we just talked about. And so if you have a regulated blood sugar, you are going to be more calm, cool, collected. You're also going to decrease your risk factors for diseases of aging. So Alzheimer's, heart disease, cancer, all sorts of things. If we keep our blood sugar regulated, that's going to have a tremendous effect on our longevity and our health and wellness. So protein is key for that. And I usually explain to people, if you think about when you go to sleep at night, your blood sugar is going to decrease because you are sleeping and you're not consuming anything. When you wake up in the morning, you have this cortisol spike, which is natural. We're supposed to spike our cortisol in the morning. It wakes us up. It's what gets us going. If you have protein as your first consumption, you are going to keep that blood sugar kind of like this throughout the day. If you have carbohydrates as your first consumption, you are going to take that cortisol, spike your blood sugar, and now you're going to have these peaks and crashes throughout the day. And so protein as a first consumption, I think, is essential for setting your day up properly. There are a handful of studies that suggest that you can only absorb a certain amount of protein at a time. And then there are others that suggest otherwise. I'm a believer that your body will take what it needs when it needs it. Our bodies are intuitively smart. So I do not think that sitting down and having 100 grams of protein in a meal is a good idea. Your body's going to say like, sorry, can't do it. Conversely, like anywhere between 20 and 40 grams, can your body do it? For the most part, yes. That's going to fluctuate with each individual. And I am a huge proponent of really getting to know ourselves when it comes to our diet, because everyone will be a little bit different. And so it's going to take some time to figure out what works for your body. You know, some people may find that when they go too high protein, now their digestion becomes a little bit of a problem. And oftentimes what we see is they're not getting enough fiber in their diet because they're emphasizing protein too much. So I do go by the rule of like 1 gram per pound of body weight as the ideal, especially if you are an active human who is trying to grow muscle and lift weights, which we all should be doing for the benefits of longevity and anti-aging. And then I also believe that periods of fasting are important too, to kind of give your body that balance and that reset. And that also is going to look different for everyone, because we live in a world of, if we're going to do something, let's do it more because more is better. So we have our people who are over consuming, and then we also have our people who are fasting too much and not realizing that balance between mTOR, which is like the growth of our cells and our body, and autophagy, which is kind of our cleanup crew, which is keeping things, you know, we're looking at the damaged DNA and proteins and getting rid of those. And so we really want this balance between the two. So protein kind of helps us achieve that ability to improve and grow and gain, and then breaks, autophagy, helps our body to maintain the balance of cleaning things up in those downtimes.
I find that protein consumption, consistent protein consumption for me also has a couple benefits. That 3 o'clock dip that a lot of parents will talk about, where you just are exhausted and you've hit a wall and you're not sure how you can get through the rest of the day, is much less of a dip when I've hit my protein goals at breakfast and lunch. I also notice that when I'm consistently consuming enough protein, I do not have the same cravings for sugar and carbohydrates.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of that comes back to that first morning spike of cortisol, right? Because when you hit that 3 p.m. dip, your blood sugar is crashing. If you've had enough protein, your blood sugar is staying stable throughout the day. If you haven't, then you're hitting this dip where your blood sugar crashes. Your cells are just, they're hungry, they're thirsty. You know, anyone who hits that dip, I'm like, more protein in the morning. And when you feel that dip coming, large glass of lemon water with electrolytes and then a meat stick. Like that is going to solve your dip, you know?
Oh my God, that's so funny. I was just talking to a friend and I was saying my 3 o'clock snack is 3 meat sticks. Okay.
Love it.
I have them right here. Here we are. 1, 2, 3. I'm all ready. I'm ready.
Look at you. See?
I'm prepared for 3 o'clock.
I'm prepared.
These are I love these Maui Nui sticks. Have you tried these? They're venison.
Yes.
And they're so good. And there's 10 grams of protein in each one, 55 calories. I'm not trying to calorie restrict, but I'd also like that there's only 1 gram of fat. I don't need a lot of fat from a beef stick. I personally don't. I'd still like to burn a little that's on my body. So, but this, and then Element. I do a stick of Element or a can of sparkling Element at 3 o'clock, and I am ready to roll. And I'm good. I'm gonna have a good dinner. It's amazing to me.
It really is incredible. I mean, it's incredible what protein and hydration can do for the body. Like I have a 5-month-old at home right now, and he's a pretty good sleeper, but some nights are a disaster. And if I wake up and I'm exhausted, if I hydrate and then I make a plate of beef, like ground beef, my day is so much better than if I'm just like, oh, I'm tired, I'm just going to grab whatever is handy. No, if I hydrate and I have beef in the morning, it's like I can rebound and I'm good to go, you know? So I hear you.
I also think that we should talk a little bit about the idea of stress eating, right? I remember when I was sick in my 20s, I talked about this last season in an episode when I talked about having cancer. I lost a ton of weight when I was diagnosed and went through treatment. Just a ton. I got super skinny. Now, a lot of people really thought that was great, but I was really underweight. And for me, that was a rarity. I don't know if I'd ever been underweight in my entire life. And this nurse pulled me aside, and she was lovely. She was a radiation oncology nurse, and she was really worried about me. I mean, I think because she saw me all the time alone. I was at every appointment by myself, and I think that was a little odd. It was. And she pulled me aside and she said, "You need to eat." And she had all the best intentions, but she said, "Eat anything that tastes good. Eat French fries. Go get a shake. Eat pizza." I mean, I remember the conversation. I can tell you exactly where I was sitting. I mean, it was because she was drawing my blood while we were having this conversation. And I mean, I can, it's just vivid and clear. No one had ever told me I should eat crap. Okay. And I was like,
especially a medical professional.
A medical professional. And she was so intense about it in the way she was caring for me, right? Well, I did. I went out and I ate. And, those foods make us feel so good initially.
They're engineered to do so.
Uh-huh. And it was a great way to offset temporarily the very dark feelings I had around having cancer. Okay. Who wouldn't have them? It was such a brief blip of joy, right? When I would pick up that vanilla shake, right? And maybe even dip the French fries in it. I mean, how disgusting, but it tastes great. The salt and sweet combo, the whole thing. Well, what happened is I got fat.
that is the byproduct of
I got fat. My blood sugar was out of control. I was pre-diabetic, and my cholesterol was off the hook because my thyroid gland had also been destroyed by radiation. So lots of things were going on. But I developed this pattern of eating when I was sad. And it reinforced for me, when we're sad, we eat. We eat to feel better. And that's stress eating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I did it. And I was a pro at it. I even got good at making good choices sometimes, but it was never the right quantity, right? So, I mean, we can eat all the right things and still be overweight. There's too much of anything is just too much. I don't know that I was very aware at the time that my stress eating was putting more stress on my body and causing me more stress. And I was creating this vicious loop that I couldn't escape from. We give ourselves permission so often when we're feeling down, feeling low, feeling stressed. It's a hard time. I'm just going through something. I'm just going to give myself a break. I'm just going to do this. I don't think we realize how susceptible our brains are to being caught in these patterns that then are very, very, very hard to break.
Yeah, and you change the wiring of your brain with those patterns, right? Because now your brain, your limbic system tells you every time that you're stressed, this is the thing that makes you feel better. You should go do this, right? So you are training and reinforcing your brain to give your body that signal every time. It's intense.
It's intense. So when you think about, stress eating, there are things we should definitely avoid. I also think it's helpful to invite people to, we said, you said it clearly, you're like, get yourself a meat stick and some electrolytes. What should we be reaching for? What do we need to have in our houses, in our cars, in our bags, available to us in those moments so we can make better choices?
I think at the very least, I try to practice the pause with a lot of things in life, right? I think it's always good to pause before we react. And so with stress eating, that's the same thing. Take a pause and make a rule for yourself that if you're having this craving because you're stressed, I'm going to always drink water and I'm going to consume, whether it is macadamia nuts or a meat stick or, something either high in fat or high in protein to help regulate your blood sugar, bring down your cortisol a little bit. And then if you're still really passionately having that craving, there's a lot of ways you can go with that. But if you're going to consume something not as beneficial, at the very least, you've primed your body to be in a state where it can go, okay, I'm going to have just a little bit of this. I'm not going to binge on it because I gave myself some tools first. Conversely, you've done this pause now and you've had a moment to reflect. And a lot of times that's going to help you make a better decision and say, okay, I actually don't need that. I was just feeling it in the moment because I'm overwhelmed right now. So I think that's one of the first things we can implement. I travel with snacks. Again, I have a 5-month-old and a 5-year-old. So I travel with snacks constantly. And it is like, kids are kids, right? So there are some things like the healthier fruit gummies and things like that. But it is always meat sticks, Epic meat bars, nuts, and fruit. And then you can have your fruit juice based sucker or gummies or whatever it may be. And I try to practice those things with them and myself. But I think if you are traveling with those things at all times, you give yourself tools to just make better choices in the moment. Just don't have the crap around, and then you can't overindulge in it.
I had a dietitian that I worked with for a long time. She was really helpful for me with like healing my gut and like setting up some structure for nutrition when I was really struggling. And she herself is diabetic, and which gave her a lot of street cred in my mind because a type 1 diabetic most of her life who had 2 children really, really had it dialed in for herself. But she would always say, no naked carbs. And that's what you just described. Eat the meat stick or the macadamia nuts before you decide you're going to grab the chips or the candy or the brownie or the cookie. Your body will handle it better if you choose that that's really what you want to eat. And that no naked carbs piece for me has always been very helpful, and it helps me cultivate the pause because I got to think about what I'm going to put with it. And when I start to think about what I'm going to put with it, I'm asking myself why I'm even eating it. If I have to think like, what should I eat to help my body manage this cookie? Why am I eating the cookie?
Then it makes you go, why do I eat the cookie? Yes. It's so interesting how you were describing your cancer journey, right? And how it just kind of explains the depths of problems in the medical system if our medical providers were telling us to eat anything. Because when I think about cancer, that often stems from an imbalance in the immune system's ability to regulate what's happening in our cells. And so when you think about just adding more stressors to your body, your cells are going to be more likely to mutate because now you've added this stressor of bad food. More stress depletes our natural killer cells. And when we deplete our natural killer cells, our body can't do the right things for killing off damaged cells and preventing things like cancer and diseases of aging. And so it's so backwards, right? We should be really, especially in our hospitals and our healthcare systems, providing people with healthy food options, with nutrition, with things that are going to fuel their cells and make their immune system more likely to do the right thing rather than the wrong thing.
Oh God, you bring up a whole nother topic here. My mom was in the hospital, for 3.5 weeks in an ICU with a heart attack, and her septum wall ruptured between her left and right ventricle. She was on a heart pump, and she was a mile from me in the hospital. And I cooked every single meal she ate for those 3.5 weeks. I mean, she and I were out totally aligned. I was like, Mom, do not eat this shit. I am going to bring you every meal you're going to eat. And I will never forget the day that my GP, my normal GP, who knew she was in the hospital, came to visit her. Great guy. He's been an incredible resource for me and my family. And he brought her a fucking donut.
No.
And I mean, this woman had lost her ability to walk because, 3.5 weeks on a heart pump. That's the experience of being in the ICU, right? She had to learn to walk again, how to do stairs again. And he brought her a donut. Now, it was the same thing as my nurse. But that was 1992 when my nurse told me I should eat anything. This was 2022, 30 years later, and we know a lot more. And I mean, there was a moment where she was sitting there. She's like, one day, she's like, come on, Sarah, I can, she's from Wisconsin. Sarah, I can just pick something for lunch. It's okay. I'm like, Mom, no, let me just look at the menu. And she grabs the menu and she says to me, I can't eat this shit.
Good for her.
So every morning I brought her an omelet.
That's
every
amazing.
Every noon I brought her a salad with grilled, organic, pasture raised, whatever, I mean, it was like, I think it's kind of interesting that, I think if you look at the research, anybody with an MD after their name has gotten about 4 hours of schooling in nutrition. And, I had a dear person in my life who went through heart failure and was told by his cardiologist that, yeah, he could drink again because he wasn't in heart failure anymore. And as long as he did it in moderation, and who knows, maybe it had some health benefits. Well, I don't think that any American should be taking nutrition advice from somebody with an MD after their name who only got 4 hours of education and learned basically the standard American diet.
Yeah, truly. It's really sad. The whole structure could use to be reimagined. Medical schools set up very much to create the ability to navigate health crises, not keep people healthy, not give people the tools for health, for cellular optimization, for wellness. And I think that is something that confuses people, or that a lot of people don't realize. You talk about like being in the hospital with your mom and the terrible options. That just brought me back to when I was a nurse at Lurie's, and people would say like lightheartedly make fun of the food that I ate. It was always kind of like a running joke, what's in Katie's lunch today? But I remember one time I was walking through the hallways in the hospital sipping on a green smoothie, and one of our NICU neurosurgeons stopped me, and he was like, wow, what a great habit that is. I should probably do some more things like that in my life. I'm like, yeah, you really should, right? But medical school is just not set up to educate on diet, nutrition, wellness, any of it.
I think my own cancer journey, and I see this in you, Katie, caring for myself and then my children who have their own health issues has become an act of rebellion for me. Rob Wolf has a podcast called The Healthy Rebellion. I love it, and he talks about, the healthcare system. Is it a healthcare system or is it a sick care system? I have had to navigate the sick care system in a way that very few people have, right? With not my own health issues and then my children's also. And it has truly called out of me like a mama bear, a very rebellious part of me. And really like the need to trust my intuition that, yeah, no, we shouldn't order off the menu, and we shouldn't be afraid of protein, and we should be very afraid of processed food and sugar, and we should really stay away from seed oils. Yeah, it's probably a really good idea. And no, low-fat dairy is probably not a great option for us. And, maybe we don't eat all these grains in our diet that are highly processed. And
filled with glyphosate, right? Holy cow.
I think I got cancer because I grew up in cornfields that were sprayed by glyphosate.
Oh, yeah. That's probably another conversation we need to have.
Right? I'm almost certain of it. I grew up next to a sulfur paper mill surrounded by cornfields.
Oh, yeah.
That were sprayed by glyphosate. So I wonder why I got Hodgkin's disease, right? There's actually studies that are linking
I no longer wonder. I
don't either,
Yeah.
Add to that the sort of stress and adrenaline that I lived on for many years and the sort of high pressure environment that I was in, blah, blah, blah. But I want to empower people who are listening to trust their own intuition around what is right for them. Because I think actually when we start to strip away the things that don't feel right, we can very clearly see the things that do.
Absolutely. People are so disconnected from their intuition these days because we are so dopamine dependent on our screens, I think. And so it's very hard, I think, for people to lean into their intuition. And we grew up in the era of processed food being this new thing. And so there wasn't this knowledge before of how damaging it is. And now we're having to figure it out for ourselves. But I always try to encourage people, especially if they have children, I try to encourage them more from the perspective of, like, moms always seem more willing to put their children first than themselves. And sometimes, like, in some regards, you have to because they rely on you to survive. It's also important to prioritize ourselves. But I try to encourage people, teach your children. Like, they're watching what you do. They're watching the way you take care of your body. They're learning from you. Think about if you were set up from the time you were a child to really understand nutrition and how it affects your body. You would be in such a better place right now with your health. So give your children that gift. And I think that resonates a lot, mothers, and that helps make that shift in that population of my patients.
the last basketball tournament that we had for my 17-year-old, I asked her to pack the car snacks.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay. And she said to me, did you grill chicken last night? Because what we pack for car snacks is literally sliced chicken or steak. And she and I eat just cold meat. We call it meat. We call it meat snacks. And so that was her first question. Did you grill chicken last night?
Good job, Mama.
But, I have a kid who, well, he's now 20 and oh God, he eats a lot of crap.
He'll come back around.
He will. But when he was younger and I used to tell him to go make his breakfast, he would go grab beef salami. He would cut cucumbers and carrots and peppers for himself and grab raspberries or blueberries. He's like, and that would be, and I'd come downstairs and that would be on his plate. You are so spot on. My kids, I love when they make fun of me, the way I eat, because I know they're paying attention. I think we should talk about sugar. Dun, dun, dun. I had a date on Saturday night. Super fun. I got taken out to dinner. It was really fun. And at the end of the meal, it was really cute. And at the end of the meal, he leaned in. He's like, do you want dessert? I said, no, I'm good. He goes, wait, I had a date. I was dating a girl once. She got really mad at me because I didn't order dessert. Would you tell me if you wanted dessert? And I looked at him and I said, I don't eat sugar. And he paused and he goes, ever? I said, so rarely, you will never see it. And it was a really funny moment. And then there was a whole conversation about how do you do that and why, and oh my God, I need to eat less sugar. Everybody knows they need to eat less sugar. Let's talk about why we actually should be eating less sugar and how do we do it?
So I read something, and gosh, I read this a while ago, so I'd have to check my sources on it, but I believe it, that stated that children in 1950, so in a child's lifetime now, they consume more sugar by age 8 than they did in their entire lifetime in the 1950s.
Holy cow. Okay, yes. That's scary.
And I believe it, right? I mean, everything we do is based around food. Every school activity, every birthday party, every treat, every special event, every bribery, everything with kids is based around sugar. We are just teaching them to be little sugar monsters. And conversely, then we grow up to be big sugar monsters. And it is a massive problem for our cellular health. It's a massive problem for our brain health. It is a massive problem for our immune health, our gut health. I'm a believer that a little bit of organic cane sugar or coconut sugar here and there is not the end of the world if you're doing it properly. If you have enough protein to keep your blood sugar stable, and if you're going to move your body after consumption, you need to move your body, tell your cells to take this sugar in and use it up right away. Don't allow it to create this crazy spike and then increase your cortisol and increase inflammation systemically. Kind of have your sugar allowance, which should be low, like 10 grams per day or less, and use it wisely.
What does 10 grams of sugar a day look like?
Oh, gosh. It depends what you're consuming. So like the other day I like sometimes a little creamer in my coffee, either the milk or the Laird, and those will have 2 or 3 grams of sugar. So that's like, 30% of my allotment for the day right there. For my daughter, sometimes it's like the organic Johnny Pops popsicle, and that right there is going to be about 10 grams of sugar. For a kid, they're probably going to be getting more than 10 per day. So, it's really being mindful about those choices, because when the end of the day comes and you go on that date, if you do want to have dessert, you better make sure that you didn't spend all of your sugar dollars earlier in the day.
Well, and also it just might make you feel crappy too.
Oh, gosh, yes. Especially if you don't move your body afterwards.
Right. We have a little tradition, and it's a lot easier to do when it warms up. I mean, living in Chicago in the winter, this can be sometimes hard because if it's dark at 4:45, and I try to get everybody outside after dinner for, 15 to 20 minutes. And it's sometimes just a walk with the dogs to the lake or around the neighborhood or in the backyard, throw a ball around, just get our bodies moving before we either sit down for homework or a television or whatever it is we're going to do in the evening. I feel like that exercise after eating, movement, movement after eating is really good. It's also really nice family time.
Absolutely.
And in the summer, or when it's nicer now, it's nice enough, we'll put jackets on and ride our bikes to go get an ice cream. If we're going to do that or something like that, keep it more active. And I don't talk to the kids about like, now we need to move our bodies because we consumed sugar and sugar is bad. So therefore it's just like, let's go outside and go do something together, because moving our bodies feels so good. I really kind of work on the messaging around that with my kids because for me, the messaging around food was really toxic growing up. And I'm trying really hard to not have it be that way, for my own kids.
Oh, yeah. It is a balance. My goodness. You want to educate them, but you don't want to stress them out further or make food. You don't want food to be a thing. You just want food to be intuitive for them. Like I make good choices for my body because I know it makes my body strong and my brain strong. Like I have a 5-year-old, so that's the season of food education that we're in. Protein makes your body strong and your brain strong. Fruits and vegetables make your belly strong, which makes your mind strong, And as they grow, that messaging can change. But I think it's very important to be mindful around it. You're setting them up with the habits, right? You're setting them up not to say, well, you got to exercise because you had sugar, but to say, after I eat, I like to get outside. I like to move my body. And innately, you are teaching their body that after they consume something, it should use whatever they're consuming, rather than just allow it to sit and cause inflammation in the body.
There's a lot of research that's coming to light now about the link between high processed foods, sugar consumption, and dementia. So I wonder if you can comment, Katie, at all on the sort of stress that the consumption of these things puts on the brain.
The more research we're doing, we're looking at dementia and Alzheimer's more likely being like a type 3 diabetes per se. That elevated blood sugar over time and that disruption of your insulin sensitivity causes severe inflammation in the brain, which is what we are continuously learning. And again, that starts when we're young. If you are living in this state of constant overconsumption, and by the time you're an adult, your insulin sensitivity is crap, you're just setting off a chain reaction of inflammation in your system. And a lot of that will start in the gut. A lot of that will start because what you're consuming is breaking down your gut barrier and allowing toxins and things to get into your bloodstream. And now you have this elevated inflammatory response because your body's not utilizing your carbohydrates and sugar the way that it should. And that's increasing your cortisol. And now you're decreasing your immune cells and natural killer cells, right? And so it all has these chain reactions, but brain health is significantly related to our inflammation and to our gut. And so all of these pieces are coming together in not necessarily a simple way, but in a way that makes sense, that's intuitive. But yes, a lot of new emerging data showing that elevated blood sugar over time is causing dementia and Alzheimer's later in life. And so when you're making these choices in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, you're not even necessarily doing it for right now. I mean, especially in your 20s and 30s, right? It's easy to recover from whatever you do. You drink wine, you consume something you shouldn't. It's pretty easy to bounce back the next day. But I remember in my 20s telling my coworkers when they were like, why are you eating this way? I was like, I'm doing this so that when I'm 70, when I'm 80, I can feel good. I can be a part of my grandchildren's lives. I can move my body. I can exercise. Like I'm doing this for that time of my life so that my mind is sharp and my body is able.
I love that so much. I read something recently that Alzheimer's begins in the 20s. The roots of Alzheimer's are actually beginning in our 20s. I mean, I think there's always a big wake-up call I see this. There's a big wake-up call kind of as people are hitting midlife, like 40 and then 50, it hits pretty hard. Like, oh, shit, I can't do what I used to. I better get serious. I should probably start taking good care of myself. Well, any time is a good time to start taking care of yourself, but we've got to do it sooner.
Yes, we need better education and awareness. And I think we're getting there in some ways. Social media has its downsides, but it also has its upsides. And I think that education is reaching more people. I speak with college students. I mean, look at your kids, right? They have such a great awareness and understanding, and that is setting them up for an entirely different longevity picture and aging picture. But yeah, our brain health, it's really being affected from the time we're young and then showing up when we're 70 or 80. And that's why it's so hard to reverse whatever disease of the brain or of the nervous system that occurs. It's hard to reverse things because you're working against possibly 60 years of creating this problem. And sometimes people come to me and they go, well, how fast can you fix this? And I'm like, well, I'm not fixing this. You are. I'm giving you the roadmap to. And it took insert 10, 20, 30, 50 years for you to get here. So give me some time. It might take me 3 years for you to feel better, you know?
I know it's possible. I mean, really, if I just look at photos of myself from last year to this year and the amount of stress that was in my life and how I pivoted to deal with both handling that stress, making some good choices, and also taking care of myself. I mean, we can heal. Our bodies are incredible, but I have made some very hard choices and I have a lot of discipline. And I think, well, so do you, but people look at me and they're like, oh, I couldn't do that. And I often say, the more disciplined I am, the more freedom I feel like I have because I feel great. I don't have a lot of stress about what am I going to do and how am I going to eat. And it's all I already know. I'm going out for sushi with a friend tonight. She chose the restaurant, not necessarily the one I would pick, but I'm super excited to spend time with her. So knowing that, those will be my carbs tonight, right? And my whole day is going to be set up so that I don't have to really stress about what I'm going to eat at dinner. I know there's sugar in sushi rice. I can't ask them to prepare the rice without the sugar for me. So I'm going to eat more sashimi than I do sushi rolls. I'm also going to bring coconut aminos with me. I'm such a dork, but I bought packets of coconut aminos. I use that instead of soy. I don't like soy. I don't want soy.
Same.
There's gluten in it, and it's estrogenic. So I try to avoid soy. I'm going to eliminate all the sauces from the things that I eat. I have a plan. And so I'm going to have a great time knowing that that's how I'm going to tackle the meal. And I'm going to walk away from it feeling really good.
And you're probably going to head into it with a really good protein foundation from your day. So you won't be as ravenously hungry when you get to dinner.
No, I actually probably won't be hungry at all. Most days I'm not very hungry when I get to dinner. Because I've stacked my day so beautifully.
Which so many people do backwards, actually, right? In this fasting culture, people skip breakfast all the time, which is the wrong way to do it. There's actually research that shows that your cardiac health is better off skipping dinner. So we should be consuming breakfast. We should be consuming food earlier in the day. And if we're going to be in a state of fasting, doing that more so around dinner time. You set yourself up. It can seem overwhelming at first, but you are the poster child of the ideal patient walking in my door, because you walk in and you go, help be my partner on this journey, not fix me, not do it for me, but be my partner on this journey of both healing, but also knowing that there's always healing and optimizing to do. It's not a one-time thing. You don't heal and then you're healed for life. We live in a world where there's toxins, there's stress, there's all sorts of things. And it is an ongoing journey to keep yourself healthy. And it's really enjoyable once you get into it. It's really fun.
It is, because it feels so good to feel good. The things that I'm able to do. I had a ridiculously hard fall skiing last weekend. And I've got some whiplash because of it. But and I catapulted 50 feet down the mountain. Cartwheeling, right? And I got up literally with only a sore neck. I'm going to be 53 in May. And I just know it's because my body is so strong. And already my neck today feels great. And I worked out this morning and I'm fine.
Just think about if you were making poor choices, you had osteoporosis, a lot of inflammation, that fall could have looked so different. You could have ended up in the hospital with broken bones and a concussion and all sorts of things. But because your body is robust, you fall more gracefully.
Yeah. And your body can just handle so much more. I feel like we have to talk about alcohol. Because I still encounter people who are surprised that I don't drink. You don't eat sugar ever, never. You don't drink, and then I really never did a lot because I don't really like alcohol. It's easy for me not to drink. But first of all, people don't realize that some don't, that alcohol is sugar. Okay. And I'm going to also throw it out that it's poison, and that there are no, you can confirm if I'm right on this, there are no proven health benefits.
Zero proven health benefits. I will yell it from the mountaintops. Zero proven health benefits. Your doctor is telling you that a glass or two of wine per day is helping your heart. They're liars. Or they're just not educated on the topic.
Say more about that, because there's a lot out there about the people believe that it's a healthy choice.
It is just damaging your DNA. It is making your cells weaker. It is making your body weak. And I know that some people, I mean, I would say probably maybe 2 times per year, I'll have either like a organic fresh lime juice margarita or like a dirty martini, maybe 2 times per year, because I enjoy it. But then by the time I get to the end of it, I'm like, well, that was stupid. Why did I even do that? Because I know tomorrow I'm not as good as I did today. But yeah, alcohol has zero health benefits. There are only downsides to alcohol consumption. It is gunking up your detox organs. It is not good for your liver. It is not good for your brain. It has a lot of sugar. It's destroying your gut microbiome. It's killing off a lot of your good bacteria and creating leaky gut problems, which then creates brain problems because our gut and our brain are so intricately connected. Yeah, alcohol is
Katie, it helps me sleep.
Okay. I hate that argument. And every single patient who has ever told me that gets a wearable device. I'm like, great. You put on this Oura ring and you start measuring your days of when you consume alcohol and the days that you don't. And they all come back to me with tail between their legs going, oh, my resting heart rate was 20 points higher than it is on the days I don't consume alcohol. And I'm like, I told you so.
Right. It helps you fall asleep. It wakes you. It destroys your deep sleep.
It destroys your sleep quality. It's basically just knocking you out because it's so poisonous to you, and then destroys your sleep quality, which then sets you up for bad recovery, inflammation, brain problem. I mean, it's just a laundry list of problems. So yes, it does not help anybody sleep.
I want to kind of wrap this up, and the message that I'm hearing, it's the kind of like main takeaway I'm gleaning here is, if you want to be able to manage stress and inflict less stress on yourself, manage your inflammation.
Definitely. I mean, people don't realize that stress is not just emotional. Stress is the food we consume. It is the media we consume. It is the air we breathe, the water we drink. And so the more those things inflame your body, the more stressed you are. And so, you know, I think people get overwhelmed sometimes too, because sometimes these conversations can come off to people in the early stages as if they have to live life as a robot. So I do want to emphasize that wherever you're starting from is a good place to start from, right? You don't have to be 100% alcohol and sugar-free as of tomorrow, but equip yourself with the knowledge of how your consumption affects your health and your life, because you can make major changes in the way you show up for yourself, for your family, for your career and your passions and all of the things.
When I was struggling with making the right choices and still kind of caught in that dopamine loop, I used to just say to myself, just for today, just for today. I still do that sometimes when I want to make other shifts that are more around like mindset, or maybe I want to be on social media less, or maybe I'm feeling more caught in like a negative thought pattern. Just for today. Or when I want to add something in, like I'm not really being consistent at a meditation practice, or I need to do some breath work, just for today. You can do anything for one day. And then tomorrow you can decide if you want to do it again. I do think we set ourselves up for failure when you feel like it's an all or none proposition and you have to do it forever.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult.
As long as you're showing up with intention, right? As long as you're showing up with intention, you will make those changes over time. And I used to beat myself up if I was like, okay, I've been doing so good and now I messed up, or I had a cheat meal or some nonsense like that. And then I just shifted that mindset of like, okay, well, that was just for that meal, kind of like just today. It was like, that was just then. I can make a different choice in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, in an hour. I don't have to go down this spiral because I messed up what I was trying to do. I can choose differently tomorrow.
I love that. I also don't really love the concept of cheat meals. I don't think it sets us up really with a good mindset around food. I'm cheating. what am I cheating? Cheating who? I mean, if there's something I really, really want and I've taken the pause and I'm going to eat, I'm just going to eat it. My body is ridiculously resilient.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because you've made your body metabolically flexible, right? Your body is so solid in its blood sugar response and its insulin sensitivity that now it is metabolically flexible. And so if you say, you know what, we're on vacation and I want to have ice cream at this ice cream shop, I'm going to get 2 scoops in a waffle cone and I'm not even going to think twice about it. Your body is going to take that, it's going to burn it and move on so quickly because it is in a metabolically flexible state.
Katie, this has been really great. I always feel empowered when you and I have a conversation, even in these moments where I've had some really tough stuff going on with the kids. There's a way that people who practice medicine the way you do have a way of empowering us to own our health and find it in ourselves. All of the good things are in us, right? We're just trying to unlock them.
Yeah. Amen.
So this has been wonderful.
Thank you for having me. I mean, I can talk endlessly with you. We always do, right? We always find things, but no, I think it's just, showing up with intention and making good choices for yourself. It's going to resonate energetically to everyone around you, and it's going to make life better. In a world where life can be really overwhelming and stressful, it's going to feel easier to navigate life when you're making intentional, good choices for your consumption.
It also feels really good to know there's other people out there doing it, that you're not alone, right? And so I encourage people who are listening, find those other people that are making the good choices and hang with them.
Yeah. And they'll show up if you start making good choices, right? Like all of a sudden, they will show up. When you put something out there into the universe, you attract it back. And so sometimes you might feel lonely in what you're doing. You will start attracting the right people.
Yeah, I can't even tell you how many times, what are you doing? What are you eating? Or what aren't you eating?
Yeah.
We're going to put some resources in the show notes so people can find you at Peak Health and on your Instagram account, which always has great info.
Thank you.
And inspirational content. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful.
Oh, so good. Till next time.